Going on? Welcome to another episode of Bring Your A Game. That's a little kiss for you for showing up on the show and stopping by and listening to us talk sports. For those of you who are returning, you know who we are, who I am. For those of you who are watching for the first time, it's your boy, Austin Snyder. You can catch me on Twitter at Austin Snyder90. Catch me on TikTok at Austin Snyder509. And catch me on Facebook just at Austin Snyder. Now, as always, I am with my PIC partner in crime.
That would be me, Amar Burton. You can catch me at Amar_206 on Instagram and on Twitter. Also catch me at Amar Burton on Facebook. So we're here for another episode. It's us again. We're kind of like the Gas House Gang. That's an inside joke. We're kind of like the original NWO. And we're kind of like Aikman and Emmett and Irvin, because this week we got a third person in the crew. We got Dillon here. Dillon Holloway. He's going to introduce himself right now in case you have missed the previous episodes with him on them. So, Dillon, take it away.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. If anybody doesn't know, I am Austin's older brother. And so we're throwing out social media, Twitter, Dillon Reports, TikTok, Dill's TikTok, so you can catch me on there too. It is a pleasure to be here, and I am ready for us to let her rip, as they say in the business here, you know?
Yep. So, first thing, if you watched Monday Night Football, you saw my Cleveland Browns lose a heartbreaker to the Baltimore Ravens. 47-42. The score was important if you were betting on the game. Also a heartbreaker. So the score dropped the Browns to the game dropped the Browns to 9-4, but they're still looking pretty good for the playoffs. But if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, if you have any familiarity with Cleveland Browns history, you know nothing's for certain. This team could be 12-3. They could be 12-1, and I'd still be worried like something's going to happen and they're not going to make the playoffs. But watching this team, you guys, is this like for real? Is this a real, legit contending Browns team, or at least a real, legit playoff team that could possibly like win a playoff game if they get in?
Well, I think they're definitely going to make the playoffs. They're looking pretty good right now, unless they have an epic Cleveland Browns on-brand style collapse. They have to at least lose to the Giants and the Steelers, possibly even the Jets, to miss the playoffs, depending on who wins what games coming up this Sunday. But I don't see them being a team that can really make noise in the playoffs. I still don't believe in Baker Mayfield. I love their O-line. I love the run game. I love aspects of their defense, but sometimes Baker Mayfield just doesn't make a believer out of me. I don't know about you guys. What do you think?
Man, I think I am starting to believe in Baker Mayfield. And here's the biggest reason why, and I think this is the most important reason why, to me personally, I feel like this is a sustainable amount of success, even just 9-10 wins a season for the foreseeable future when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. As crazy as that sounds, and people may say, Austin, you're getting your hopes up to think that they'll have more than one winning season in a row. But the biggest thing is this is not Baker Mayfield's Cleveland Browns. It's not. It's Kevin Stefanski's Cleveland Browns. That's what the identity of this team has been. It's been that ridiculous rushing attack. It's been, great creative plays. And it's allowed Baker Mayfield to, shy away from the spotlight. I think there were signs, and Amar, definitely correct me if I'm wrong. I do follow the Browns. They're my dirty little secret team. But there were signs last year from Baker Mayfield that really made you feel like almost like the spotlight made him anxious. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't super comfortable. He's got the facade and he's the cool guy and funny guy in the commercials and this and that and that. But I think that even he knew that it was getting to a point where it was affecting his ability to play the game and play it at a high level. Now he's kind of been allowed to step out of that spotlight. Stefanski is the armor around that team. That is what that team's identity has become. You've got you take basically what he did in Minnesota, and I said this from the start, and one person who agreed with me was Colin Cowherd, because he said it from the start as well. If you listen to him at all, but that's what Stefanski's system is. It's tough defense, strong running attack, and you put your quarterback in position to basically manage the game. So now you look at this team that is pretty much the same roster from last year, other than a few really key additions, and then minus the loss of another all-pro receiver in Odell Beckham Jr., and they're winning. Why? Because of Stefanski and the system and culture and identity that he has implemented into this team. And guess who is not winning right now? The Minnesota Vikings. Why? Because Kevin Stefanski is no longer there, and they have pretty much the same team with the addition of a pretty key playmaker at wide receiver. You know what I mean? That they've had all season. So, I expect them to go to the playoffs. I expect them to probably get bounced round one, but maybe make it to round two in a bit of a Cinderella story. Who's to say? But I expect them to be in this hunt for at least the next few years whilst he's still at the helm there.
Yeah. This team is in a way, they're kind of reminding me of the way the Seattle Seahawks season has gone, but almost in reverse. So the Seahawks started off the season, their offense was like killing it. The defense was terrible. They were still winning because the offense was killing it. And then the last few weeks, it's like the Seahawks defense has been playing better, but the offense is struggling. Except for that Jets game, but that's the Jets, and it's like a scrimmage. You can't really
doesn't count.
Right, exactly. The Browns, it's
counts.
like it counts for the record, but it's like a walkthrough on a Sunday.
The Jets almost beat the Raiders. Come on, brother.
True. The Browns season has kind of gone like at the beginning of the year, they're this run heavy offense, and the defense is looking pretty good, but it's been like this run-heavy offense carrying the day. And then in the last few weeks, the offense has been they've been putting up points, and they've been doing it passing the ball. Baker Mayfield's been throwing, 300, something yards in the last few weeks, and the defense has been like terrible when they play Tennessee and when they play Baltimore. So I don't know which version of this team is going to show up when it's time for the playoffs. The one where Baker Mayfield can throw for 300 yards, like that's cool. I like that he can do that and make those plays. But honestly, with them, I would kind of prefer like a lower scoring, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt heavy run game, and the defense to show up and, hold a team like under 30 points and winning that way. I like Baker Mayfield too. I haven't, a lot of Browns fans have like given up on him, and they think, he's a bust and he's not ever going to live up to the expectations of number one pick. I like him. I just don't want to put the whole game on his shoulders yet, because he's not Russell Wilson. He's not at that level. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's somewhere between a game manager and a guy that can go out and put up numbers, but not like consistently week to week. He's going to have that 3 interception game, and I don't want it to happen in the playoffs. So I'd rather give it to Nick, give it to Kareem, let them do it, let Stefanski, pull whatever magic he's been pulling this season. And that can be the team that takes us into the playoffs, hopefully winning a game. I think that all just depends on who they get. It just depends on the matchup. But I could see them getting in and winning a game. I could also see them completely falling apart and not getting in. It's just you just never know with them. So
yeah, I really think that they've shown, even in that loss against the Ravens, they really put it together. Baker Mayfield played so incredible, and they ended up losing to Lamar Jackson, but again, I agree. I think if they can stay run heavy, control the clock, all that stuff. But look at Russell Wilson. Early in his career, that's what he's surrounded by. Good defense, great defense, Hall of Fame defense, and great running game. So I think if you can allow that for Baker Mayfield, you not only start to simplify things for him and you keep him in the same offensive system, for some time, you simplify and then you add some tools. And that's what Pete Carroll did with Russell Wilson. He simplified the playbook, and then just every year, you notice he just added a few more tools and a few more tools and a few more tools. And then here by year 9, here's the keys to the car, let's go win a championship. So
I think we can all agree that Baker Mayfield does not possess the physical talents of young Russell Wilson, right?
No. I don't think his ceiling is Russell Wilson by any means, but I think that he can get to a position or a point where he is more than just a game. You know what I mean? I think he could get to a point where he's a legitimate star, not superstar or dynamic franchise, whatever. Not Russell Wilson, but maybe in that like tier underneath Russell Wilson. And that's if you can maintain 2 all-pro running backs and have a guy that's a tier underneath Russell Wilson, that makes for a pretty good offense, man.
Yeah, and hopefully with Odell Beckham.
So what do you guys predict they're going to do then? Give me your prediction right now. Amar, are they going to make the playoffs?
From what I saw about how I guess the Raiders losing on Thursday was huge for the Browns as far as the Raiders had a tiebreaker over them. With that, I think they'll get in. I think they would end up playing probably whoever wins the AFC South or something in the first round. And I'd say
the Titans or the Colts that beat
them. I say they get in. And even though they beat the Titans and the Colts this year, but but when it comes to playoff time, I just see they're going to lose that game. So.
And Austin, what do you think?
I think they'll make it through Wild Card Weekend. I'm going to give them that much. Mm-hmm.
You're going to give them through Wild Card Weekend. You think they'll pass the divisional?
No.
Yeah.
No, we talked about, Browns type things. Is it not another Browns type thing to go on Monday Night Football and lose to Lamar Jackson in what's going to be known as like the Lamar Jackson like Dookie game? Like the
that was funny to me.
Jackson's version of the flu game, right, where he's comes in from the bathroom.
45 minutes. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't. You don't know, man.
I don't know, man. The way he was,
he might have had some diarrhea and was just,
look like the way
it could have been one of those situations. Trust me, bro. I have been in that situation where like. I have to leave to work. Right? I have to leave to work, and then I'm like, oh, crap! And so you run to the back, and then you're just sitting there, and now all of a sudden I'm late, and I'm sitting there, thinking like, when is it gonna stop? When is it? Like, I'm so afraid to get up right now. What's who knows? Maybe that. And then he was like sitting like this, contemplating his life, right?
Yeah.
Just watching the game on a monitor in the bathroom.
Oh, right. Maybe on his phone. Oh no! What?
And he's thinking
what I imagine. Hold on. What I imagine is that he's sitting there like this. Oh, it's never ending. And then someone comes bang. Oh my God! He McSorley. He just tore his ACL, and he was like, oh. And then he just powers through Super Saiyan.
He was gone forever. He was not pooping.
I don't
know. During the
maybe he did, and they had to run an IV into him.
You got to go back there. You got to strip down the uniform. You got to do your thing. You got to put the uniform back on. Or some people
that is true.
He had to do all that. He had to do all. Maybe you wanted to take a whole nother shower
Dillon,
after.
I have absolutely had to take in a dookie during a football game. In high school, and yeah, bro, it is not easy to drop one in that padding, dude. It's hard to wipe because you've got the back pads and all that sits there, so it's hard to reach.
It's just another one of those things that someone said on the internet that is now going to be law among all Twitter.
Did you see the video of him running? That man had to go. He had to go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Anyways, totally. On to the
Confirmed.
Next.
Yes. This episode has gone down.
I hope he comes out to breaking news. Lamar Jackson during press conference. Oh, I had to shit.
He already said he wasn't.
No, he can't admit it now. I don't even know how to transition from that into the next subject, so I'm just going to start talking about it. NBA season's right around the corner. Going to be starting
Already.
on, I think, December 22nd. It feels like they've only been off for like 2 weeks, so it's kind of crazy that it's like starting back up again. One of the biggest stories of the offseason, Giannis Greek Freak signs a supermax $228 million contract. So he's going to stay in Milwaukee for the next 5 years or until he wants to trade. What did you think of that move? I mean, did you expect Giannis to stay there? Did you think he was going to play out, free agency and go to Golden State or Miami or one of the rumored teams? Like, was this like a surprise to you?
It wasn't a surprise to me. I thought he was probably going to stay. I mean, I know a lot of like analysts and stuff like that are like, where's Giannis gonna go? Because it's more exciting to daydream. Could he go to a super mega team? Could he play with the Warriors? But he's been saying all along that he's not one of those guys who's going to jump ship to a big market team, and he wants to win a championship in Milwaukee. I think it's important to him. And look at how much money they gave the guy. It'd be hard to pass that up. So I don't know if hopefully there's enough money left over for them to get some more pieces, around him. But yeah, I think it's a good move for him, and I think it's great for the Milwaukee Bucks, because as soon as if Giannis were to leave, there's no reason to watch the Milwaukee Bucks anymore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. I personally never, it was fun to daydream and fantasize about, him joining up with LeBron or him joining with Steph Curry, or imagine that duo. But at the end of the day, Giannis seems like a pretty straightforward guy, and he has always maintained that he enjoys playing in Milwaukee. He loves the city, loves the franchise, loves the team. He's built a life there at this point. They paid him $220 million, whatever the case.
I think it was like 228, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's just a stupid life-changing. I mean, not just life-changing. Getting drafted into the NBA is life-changing. Signing that kind of contract, that like changes the entire legacy of your last name moving forward, right? If anybody ever hears Antetokounmpo, then they're immediately going to think of that man. Right, his kids, his kids' kids, his kids' kids' kids, his kids' kids' kids, his great 3 times removed cousin is set for life, bro. I mean, come on. So, and I think he enjoys the fact that he gets the coverage that he does, but it's not too much. Giannis gets kind of the right amount of attention, right? Like, he gets some love and he gets the appreciation and respect for being such an incredible basketball player. But, some criticism during playoff time, but very quickly silenced. Why? Because he's not in LA, or he's not with Miami, or he's not with Golden State, or these huge media teams that have been the center stage for so long. If he joins up with Steph Curry, boy, you better win a championship. Otherwise, you the depths of hell, you're nothing but a nobody. So I think even if they don't necessarily put a bunch of star pieces around him, I think he's happy. I think he's ready to spend most of his career there as much as possible, and do what he can, to win a championship on his own back if he has to.
I think now the Bucks are on the clock, and they've got 5 years. He's 26 now. So when this contract's up, he's going to be, into his 30s. And if they don't win a championship in this window, when his contract comes up, then I think he's going to do I made that life-changing money. I gave Milwaukee, it would have been, 10 years or something of his career at that point. Now if they haven't won a title, now I'm going to go chase a title. And maybe that's when he goes to Miami or LA or, whoever's a contender at that time, Golden State or whoever it may be. I think now there's pressure on him to win because he's the leader of the team and superstar and all that, but there's a lot of pressure on the franchise now. Put pieces around him now, put the right team around him. Because if you don't win a title during the life of this contract, that might be the last time that you have him. But Austin, you kind of brought up a good point, or something that, is kind of interesting to think about with the amount of attention that Giannis gets now. A lot of that is impacted because LeBron's still in the league, and LeBron is, every basketball sports related topic, he's the first person they go to, and every subject kind of runs through LeBron first before it goes through the rest of the league. So I am really curious to see after LeBron's gone, how's that going to look? Is there going to be someone like that who gets the attention? Like, who becomes the voice in the face of the NBA, or will it be spread around more? Is Giannis going to get more popular just because LeBron's gone? You know what I mean? So
isn't that weird how that works though? Like
mhm.
the NBA, it's like all LeBron, and the NFL, like Brady went to the Buccaneers, and like people talked about it, and people are still talking about it, but it's not like if LeBron were to just jump teams or when he's jumped teams. You know what I mean? It's like Brady and the Buccaneers, they're doing okay, but there's a chance they might not make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Like if LeBron did that, where he has done that, where he went to the Lakers and didn't make the playoffs, people like eviscerated the guy. Whereas Brady, they were like, "Oh, the defense wasn't that good, and Mike Evans didn't play well, and all this other crap." But it's just funny to me how that works. In the NFL, there's not really that one guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the face of the league.
Yeah, and it's good for like someone like Giannis or even like Kawhi Leonard, because it's like they could be the best player in the league, but still not have that pressure or the attention that comes with typically being the best player in the league, because as long as LeBron's around, he's going to take that attention and he's going to take that pressure. And so they're kind of in this ideal spot where they can just kind of like quietly, do their thing and try to win and not have all the extra, drama and attention that comes with that. One guy who does kind of have that, championship or bust every year pressure is Kevin Durant. He's going into his first real season with Brooklyn. We've seen he's played one preseason game so far, and he looked like Kevin Durant. You wouldn't have known that he was coming off of a major injury. So do you think that this season we get, 25, 30 points a game, Kevin Durant, as if he never left? And is Brooklyn an automatic title contender because of that?
I think they are an automatic title contender, and if they don't make it to the conference championship, it's complete disappointment, right? At least the conference championship. Because the thing about Kevin Durant is he's not a player that relies on like explosive dunks or great speed or anything like that. He's just taller than everybody else and is more skilled than everybody else. Like when he shoots over a guard, Charles Barkley likes to say it's like shooting over a chair, right? Like it's just so hard to stop. If he's on, he's the most unstoppable scorer in the league. No offense to James Harden. Like if his shot is on, you can't block his shot. You can't have a big guy guard him, and you can't have a little guy guard him. He's like unstoppable. And if Kyrie, the big question mark to me is if Kyrie Irving can stay healthy too, because that guy's had a lot of injury problems as well. It seems like every time he's off and running, something happens to the dude. And we know it's not his fault, but like if he gets hurt, it's going to be a little harder for the Nets to make it. But if Kyrie and Durant are both healthy in the playoffs, look out. I think they're the favorites in the East.
Yeah, I agree. They have to absolutely be considered the favorites in the East with Kevin Durant. And if nothing else, just to stay consistent with the narratives. You know what I mean? Like Kevin Durant absolutely is on that level, in terms of elite. It's in my eyes, he's the second best player in the league when healthy. The guy he's the most, he's an assassin. He is the most skilled scorer possibly in the history of the league. I mean, the dude is incredible. His ability to shoot from anywhere on the floor. And yeah, he may not be a big dunker or whatever the case, but man, that guy can move. He's got your nice long Euro steps. He just reaches his hand up and it's an inch away from the rim. So just a quick little whoop. And I've seen a lot of people or a few people say that he ain't got no post game, but I don't know. I've seen that dude definitely score from the post. So he's a 3-level scorer that's incredibly hard to stop. And then, yeah, you throw Kyrie into that mix and how skilled he is. Yeah, this was a playoff team, 2 years ago or whatever the case. So add those two guys into it, and yeah, you definitely have a championship contender. So anything short of, God, I would almost hesitate. I'd almost say the finals. Anything short of the finals, and the season's a bust.
Do you think that there's really something to the, like, New York media pressure, and he doesn't have, I mean, as good of a player as Kyrie is, he's not Steph Curry in that he wasn't like the face of the Nets already. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, this was Kyrie's team and KD joins it, so he doesn't have to be the leader. I mean, this is kind of a different situation for him. And I think when he signed, there was a lot of talk about, can he handle the media? It's New York and all the attention. Do you think too much was made of that, or like, will that actually kind of be a factor?
I don't know about for Kyrie, but I don't think it'll be a factor for KD because I think we already know what KD is. Like he's a tremendous player, but he seems a little sensitive at times. He seems a little thin-skinned at times. He even if you don't believe the burner account stuff on Twitter, he's definitely replied to people on his own account that say he sucks, his rings don't count, blah blah blah. He'll reply right back and clap back at people. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't think it'll be too much pressure for him, but how do I say this? If he doesn't win in Brooklyn, I mean, it's just going to get compounded, like compound interest on people saying, see, you need to go to the Warriors. And it's just going to be a big spotlight. Anyway, it's because he is in New York. I know it's not the Knicks. The Knicks have the bigger spotlight there. Mm-hmm. But the Nets are still in New York technically. And if he doesn't win, and if they don't win because of him, like if he misses a last-second shot or something like that, or he chokes or something like that, like people are definitely going to let him have it. And it'll be interesting to see how he responds.
Yeah, this just kind of occurred to me, and I mean, at least for this season, because of COVID, it's not like he's gonna have that daily scrum of reporters in his face every day, right? Because I'm thinking the way that they're going to do media access this year, it's not like, you're going to have all these reporters like around the arena and around their practice. And like, he has to walk into this big, massive group of people every day and talk. I mean, it's going to be more this like controlled environment and, doing interviews remotely and stuff like that. So I wonder if it was going to be a factor of him facing media pressure, like maybe this season, not so much, just because of the way that things are going to go with, protocols and all that. So I wonder if for this season, it'll actually be good for him that, he's not, 30, he has to talk to 30 people every day. It's like, it's going to be talking to one or two people from a distance on Zoom. Right. So.
Yeah. For a guy that's as thin skinned as Kevin Durant, I think like little to no media or at least that much media just constantly surrounding him, that kind of stuff. Obviously he dislikes it. I think we could see a huge boost to his play because of that.
Yeah. And I wonder if it's messed up with Kyrie to like say, I'm not going to talk to the media, because now you're putting everything on Durant. Like now, like he has to talk, if Kyrie's refusing to talk to the media, now it's like, okay, well, Kevin has to talk now. He can't.
Can Kyrie do that? Isn't that in the contract that they have to talk to the media, though?
They just get fined.
He'll just get fined.
Take it out of my $100 million,
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, the thing is, though, it's like everybody's like, oh, he's not going to feel that. Eventually, he'll be like, okay, this sucks. If they just keep finding him and keep finding him, keep finding, it's like when a player doesn't show up to like mini camp or whatever, and they start getting fined, especially if it's already over for money, which never makes any sense to me. It's like you're pissed off about your contract, so you stay home and just get fined instead. Like eventually you start to be annoyed with that. You know what I mean? Like just because you're rich doesn't mean you don't care about
seeing that $9, $10, $20,000 go out of your check.
I don't know how the NBA fines work, but I know it's a big deal to have media access. That's part of being an NBA superstar and NFL superstar is you're an entertainer and you have to give access to the media. A lot of people like to pick on the media, and I know I'm biased because technically I'm in school to be a journalist, so I'm part of the media. But a lot of people like to pick on the media like they're just being bullies and asking all these mean old questions of these poor athletes for no reason. But that's part of their job, is to answer questions and give people access. They're not breaking into their homes at 3 a.m. asking, what they're having for breakfast the next day. These are all questions about the game. I understand some questions are mean, some questions are dumb, but a lot of people take it the wrong way. Athletes being asked questions by reporters that are straight up standard questions.
Well, and that's what, let's be real. That's what people enjoy people love sport. and they love the people who play them and excel at them, and they want to know them, and they want to understand the process of how they became them, and all of the people demand all access because they want to know who you are. They want to they idolize you, and so they want that behind the curtain as much as possible. So to get mad at the media for doing exactly their job to provide that for you makes zero sense.
Yeah.
And I think the players, to me, that's always been one thing where I definitely side with the media. Buddy, you signed up for this. You knew what it was. Coming into the league, when you kissed your mama and hugged your dad or brother or whatever and told them, we made it, when you did that, you also knew that came with all of the cameras, all of the paparazzi, all of the fans, and you wanted that. You wanted that stardom. You wanted that celebrity. And maybe some people didn't necessarily, that wasn't the top of their priority, but it was a part of it. That, the money, the fame, the everything. Being able to do what you love for that, like, you know what I mean? So you know what you're signing up for. So this, to act as if the media members are just these terrible, demonous, like horrible people because they're doing their job for the people who pay to enjoy the sport. Come on, you're real.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's part of the deal. It's not just playing the game, and the media helps make sports what it is, and that's why you have not just your player contract, but that's why you have a sneaker deal, and that's why you have endorsements and all that. That media plays a role in making the game as big as it is and creating that climate for you to get all that money. So yeah, it's part of the job, is you got to answer questions and all that. And yeah, I'm biased too. I'm part of the media. Dillon's part of the media. Austin could be, but he sells cars and trucks and boats and planes and stuff. And
I
then,
would prefer to be a part of the media.
we all get it. And sometimes it sucks. I mean, there are some media members that they're trying to catch guys up, and they're trying to make them look dumb, and they're trying to be mean and bully and create scandal and all of that. But for the most part,
yeah. But let's be real. If any one of these freaking people saw an athlete out in public taking shots, acting a fool, being a little crazy, maybe at a strip club, they are busted out their phone, recording it, posting it for views and likes and shares and everything else. So to get upset at the media for doing that, especially coming from a fan, knock it off.
Yeah, I totally agree with Damar. Like, if you ask, like, I wouldn't say a dumb question because it's open to interpretation what a dumb question is. Because at the end of the day, it's like, maybe you're not asking the question maybe I'm not asking the question for myself. Maybe I'm asking the question for other people who don't know basketball or football or soccer or hockey as well. Take me through this play, what was happening here, kind of thing. But when someone asks a question like an obvious, like personal, trying to instigate something, that's out of line, obviously. But when you ask a tough question, quote unquote, a tough question, like, hey, what happened when y'all turned the ball over there and lost the game? Like you still have to answer that. That's still part of the game, right? You can't get angry at the reporter and be like, well, screw that guy forever because he asked me a question about a difficult time in the sport, And I understand it is difficult. That's what makes being a pro athlete so hard. It's like, oh, you just had the worst moment of your life? Well, tell me about it. Here's a couple of microphones in your face. And it makes it tough, but that's all part of it. Like Austin said, that's what you're signing up for. No one's shocking you when you get there. Like, wait a minute, I didn't know there was going to be cameras.
Yeah. I'll transition. Someone else who signed up for something kind of crazy, Logan Paul. He signed up to fight Floyd Mayweather Jr., and that's going to go down in February. The YouTube celebrity, social media star, whatever we're going to call him. He's gotten into boxing. He's had a few fights with other amateurs. Now he's got this exhibition with Floyd Mayweather off the heels of his brother, Jake Paul, having the exhibition against Nate Robinson, in which he famously knocked Nate Robinson out and just, put this whole corner of the country just like they just kind of hang our heads for about a week. Do you guys do you like this kind of I don't know, like celebrity boxing, it's not the real champions, it's not the real fighters fighting against each other, and these kind of exhibitions are becoming like the most popular thing out there. I mean, Jake Paul and the Tyson Jones fight. Now they're talking about Tyson going to fight Holyfield, and Floyd's going to fight these exhibitions against not real fighters, and Jake Paul wants to fight Conor McGregor now. Do you prefer this, or do you kind of wish we focused on the real boxers, or what? What do y'all think?
I wouldn't say I prefer it. I think it can be fun sometimes. I think way too much is made of the Jake Paul Nate Robinson fight. People he won the fight or whatever, but Nate Robinson is a 36-year-old retired NBA player. It's I don't know anybody expected him to go out there and just rock Jake Paul's world. You know what I mean? He's not a trained boxer. And has anybody ever actually seen an NBA fight? Let's go through this real quick.
They're
right?
terrible.
You ever watched a basketball player fight? Have you ever seen a basketball player fight and go, man, that guy could be a pro boxer? I've never once in my life thought that, right? I've seen a couple good hits when Raja Bell clotheslined the crap out of Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, rest in peace. And again, with the Suns-Lakers game. And then, of course, the Malice at the Palace. And there's been a couple other good scuffles. But other than that, these days, especially, it's all nose to nose, they're going to kiss. It's all hand slapping and everything like that. None of these NBA players look very tough when it comes to the world of boxing. And as far as Logan Paul versus Floyd Mayweather, it's hard for me to get excited about this because it's an exhibition, because they have rules you can't punch the other guy in the face. Mayweather is, whether or not you think he's the best boxer ever, it doesn't matter. He's definitely one of the best defensive fighters of all time, right? That's his thing. It's so hard to hit the guy. Watching him versus Pacquiao, Pacquiao was struggling to get solid shots on the guy. And now you take away that you can't hit his face, and instead of Pacquiao, it's Logan Paul, who's 1-1 in fights against another YouTuber, right? He's technically a pro boxer at this point, but he's not really a pro boxer, right? I don't think it's going to be close. I think Floyd Mayweather is going to win easily, but it's going to be on points. And I don't think it's going to be that entertaining. It's not like they're going to be standing there slugging each other like a Rocky movie, right? It's not Floyd Mayweather's style at all. Even against a guy who's so amateur like Logan Paul, they're just doing it for a big money deal. And God bless them. I hope they make lots of money. I'm not the biggest fan of the Paul brothers myself, but they know how to market themselves. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's they can be fun and all. It was cool to see Tyson come back and all that, but I sure as hell don't prefer it to real boxing. I absolutely prefer the art of real boxing, and it is an art. It's an incredible art. And I don't want to be one of those old get off my lawn old guys, but this shit's kind of an embarrassment to boxing. You know what I mean? Even more so. What's kind of ridiculous is that these Paul brothers just wake up one day and decide, I want to be a pro boxer, right? Compared to how many people, how many of these guys, all of them, mind you, have spent their entire lives training and critiquing and working technique and getting the crap kicked out of them and going back and work training some more and everything, you know what I mean, just to because they want to one day make that kind of money and have that kind of life and do what they love or whatever. Floyd Mayweather is always very vocal about it's not a love for boxing, it's a love for money. So you're right. Yeah, God bless them. They know how to market themselves. But, man, there is not enough outcry from the world of boxing about how ridiculously embarrassing it is that the Paul brothers are pulling attention away from, what could be great cards coming up, in the next year or so for actual boxing.
And I think part of that, Austin, is that boxing doesn't market itself well, right?
No, and it's sad.
Like, can you even name 10 boxers right now? Like, it's hard. There's no superstars in boxing, really,
Oh
right?
no.
Yeah.
I mean, you have like your
Three.
Triple G's and some of that, but
The
nobody
biggest-
that's like
yeah.
a household name.
Yeah, the biggest star in boxing is still Floyd Mayweather, and he's been retired for like 5 years. So like,
Right.
Yeah, and the thing is the Paul brothers, the reason that they're successful in getting these fights, right? Like one's still pending, obviously, with the McGregor thing, which we'll get into, is that they built the following off of TikTok and Vine, and then it started with Logan Paul doing the splits on the freaking front of the Eiffel Tower and on the Great Wall of China and all that dumb stuff, all those silly videos. And now he's got this following, so he's marketed himself and he's demanded this fight, and he gets it because Floyd Mayweather at the end of the day knows, well, this guy's got a following, people, I know I can beat this guy, and he's got a following. Like it'll sell some tickets, right?
So like,
he's like, even if Logan Paul's not a real boxer, he's more well known than most of the boxers out there. And this is completely apples to oranges, but it's kind of like Pat McAfee did NXT, like WWE, right?
right.
Like all the pro wrestlers who have been dying to get to that spot, and this punter from the Indianapolis Colts, and I really enjoyed it, don't get me wrong, but the reason he's in that spot is because people know who he is. He's got a podcast, he's got some fame, and he's a former athlete and everything. So WWE's like, yeah, we can use this guy, right? Like, people like him, he's got a following, let's put him in this spot, even though he's not necessarily like more talented than the guys on the indie circuit.
Right.
Yeah, there's a fighter out there, and very few people are going to know who I'm talking about. His name is Guillermo Rigondeaux, one of the top bantamweights in the world, Cuban fighter, like Olympic gold medalist. Like, if you like boxing, if you appreciate boxing, like, you like watching him fight. He's basically Floyd Mayweather without the star power. Great defensive fighter, like really slick boxer. His fights don't sell, and his fights don't, he doesn't headline pay-per-views. His own promoter, Bob Arum, basically went on the air and was like, this guy's boring. I can't sell his fights. And he's a great boxer. Compare him to somebody like, Jake Paul and Logan Paul. Like, it's like, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're even a great boxer or a good boxer. It's just they are entertaining, and they have this star power. They have this it factor that people want to see them do stuff, and that includes fighting now, right? So boxing's always been about entertainment. That's why boxers talk so much crap before a fight, and that's why they get into a fight at the press conference, not because they hate each other. It's because it's going to help sell the fight, right? And so that's part of the game, and they've mastered that part of the game, even if they haven't mastered the actual boxing part of the game. And I think their success and the buys that their pay-per-views get just shows that that part of the game is more important than, the boxing skill, is if your goal in this sport is to make money.
And the other thing,
that's what they're doing.
And the other thing, Amar, is, like you said, Floyd Mayweather is still the biggest star. That's because a lot of people were holding on to hope that he was going to get knocked out, right?
Right.
He's like a real life heel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so are the Paul brothers. Like, I know Logan's not quite as hated as his brother Jake, but like, people want to see these guys get served, right? That's why a lot of people were so mad at Nate Robinson for losing.
Yeah.
Because they thought Nate Robinson was the next fucking boxing champion or whatever, but because they wanted to see Jake Paul get his, right? And they want to see Mayweather get his, right? So now you have the heel versus heel thing dynamic. So I'm sure people will still watch it. I'm sure they'll hope that either one of the other ones lose. I think I laugh when I look on online comments and see people say like, oh, dude, Floyd Mayweather's finally going to get the L. Like, come on, man. Yeah. Like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, and as much as like a lot of people after Nate Robinson got knocked out said, well, he's not a real fighter, and what'd you expect and all that. Before the fight, I heard a lot of people predicting Nate would win, because all they saw was, this guy's an athlete and Jake Paul's not. And so he should be able to knock Jake Paul out. I heard a lot of that.
Paul's like 13 years younger than him.
Yeah.
Right?
But and have you seen Jake? Both the Paul brothers are pretty well built, they're big dudes.
And the thing is Jake Paul's not like he's obviously not Floyd Mayweather, but he's been training in professional boxing a lot longer than Nate Robinson. I heard I think Austin might have told me this. I don't know if it's true, but Nate Robinson only trained for like 3 months. or something like that. Like it
No,
wasn't.
I could buy that, and I mean, I think a lot of, and maybe this was a lot of local bias, kind of from the Seattle area, but it was, Nate's a hella athlete. He's still built. He played basketball, he played football. Like he's athletic, and a lot of people they didn't necessarily know much about Jake Paul. They're just like, oh, he's just some guy. He's just some clown off YouTube. Like
He's some goofy white kid on YouTube.
Yeah, like Nate's gonna knock. Just look at him. Nate's gonna knock this dude out. And then they got in the ring, and then it was like, oh, okay, this guy's actually trained a little bit, and Nate hasn't. And what happened?
Right. It was very evident as soon as the fight started that Nate Robinson's chances of winning the fight had vanished like a fart in the wind right off.
Right.
Yes. He was out of his element.
Yeah. I mean, he couldn't squeeze that one out. At that point. So can we talk a little bit about the Conor McGregor, Jake Paul dynamic? Mm-hmm. Jake Paul had unfollowed last I checked, because I'm totally plugged in, brother. Last I
Logan
checked,
Paul or Jake Paul?
Jake Paul, the one who knocked out Nate Robinson. No.
Okay.
All these white guys look the same, right?
I know. Logan Paul is fighting Mayweather, right?
Logan Paul's fighting Mayweather. He's the older one.
Jake Paul
is the younger one who's a little more outspoken, and I think people like less, actually.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Like he's kind of a jerk. I think he does it on purpose a lot.
Of course.
Anyway, so
Brock Lesnar is not really an asshole in real life. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. He is terrifying, though.
Right.
Anyway, so that's why I want to see Logan Paul fight, actually. Let's get Brock Lesnar. Let's just get that going. No, but anyway,
that'd be great.
So Jake Paul unfollowed everybody on his Instagram except for Conor McGregor's wife, and he's been trying to get McGregor, like he's just like egging him on through social media, trying to get him to agree to this fight. It's almost reminding me of like a really poorly done like Clubber Lang versus Rocky or something. You know what I mean? Like showing up to the press conference, I'll show you, woman, what a real man is like. Boo, like it's just absurd to me, and I don't know if McGregor is going to fall for it. But how do you guys think that fight would go? Because it's a little different than boxing. In boxing, it's you're punching. Obviously, you have to be a skilled puncher. In MMA, like if he got on top of him, theoretically, I guess he could win, right? Like because Conor McGregor is not that big.
Is this supposed to be an MMA fight or a boxing fight?
I would assume it'd be would it be a boxing fight? Why wouldn't it be an MMA fight? If it's
either way, it doesn't matter which one it was. McGregor will smash him, dude. Yeah. Absolutely destroy him. Bro, did you see Conor McGregor in his last fight against Cowboy Cerrone? It was like 14 seconds. I mean, dude, he just destroyed him. He was in
so then what do you think
absolute best shape of his life. But boxing-wise, McGregor is and always has been a great striker.
Right, that's his strength.
He's a very
really a ground guy,
but he's great as far as defensive, with takedowns, etc. So I mean, even if Jake Paul did get him to the ground and get on top of him, McGregor absolutely is getting out of that, and he's smashing him.
What do you think would be more entertaining, boxing or MMA between the two?
MMA for sure.
MMA, yeah.
To watch McGregor just snap Jake Paul in the chin with a freaking spinning heel kick. Oh, buddy. That'd be a really good way to start out 2021. Yeah, I mean, that'd be a really good way to start out 2021.
The Bruce Lee, like just the Enter the Dragon. And
it would be great.
Big Paul, never heard from again.
Ever.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, we saw Conor get, out wrestled and tapped out by Habib, but like that's Habib, he's the best in the world.
Right.
We saw him get outboxed by Floyd, but that's Floyd, he's the best in the world. Like,
yeah.
Him against Jake Paul, it's like,
and Conor McGregor is not a 36-year-old retired basketball player, so
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Still don't get why people thought the fight was going to be closer than it
was. Yeah. One thing that, as I go into this next segment, one thing that I'm going to tell my kids is don't get in the boxing ring if you can't box. Another thing.
Especially on pay-per-view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Maybe have your first fight off of television.
Oh no. Another thing that I'm going to tell my kids about, that I was watching the Seahawks and the Jets play, and I'm like, I want to tell them about this New York Jets team, but you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to wait and see how this season turns out, because this Jets team has a chance to be the worst NFL team of all time. Maybe outside of like the 76 Buccaneers that were just amateurishly terrible. So I'm going to hold off on that. I'm going to see how this season turns out for the Jets, and if they really go winless and if they continue to play as bad as they've been playing, I'm going to tell my kids about that. This was 2020 New York Jets, worst pro football team I've ever seen. NFL pro, because I've seen some semi-pro football, but yeah.
Yikes.
So yeah, we're gonna put a pin in that, see how these next 3 weeks go, and then they might make the cut for that historic segment.
Let's hope they do. Let's hope they get blown out 40-0 the last 3 games of the season.
Bro, they're going to beat the Browns, and not only are they not going to be the worst team ever, they're going to keep your team from reaching the playoffs.
Speaking of which, as we go back,
one win is against the Cleveland Browns.
But that would be payback, because when the Browns had that big winless streak,
they beat the
first
Jets.
win was
Yeah,
they beat the Jets. Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yep. So yes, it's going to come full circle, and then
the Browns are going to miss the playoffs by like half a game,
and the Jets still get the top pick, and Sam Darnold goes off into obscurity.
Myles Garrett announces sudden retirement.
Right.
He's never heard from again. He's lost at sea. Like,
but what were we gonna say, Austin?
I don't even remember.
Where are we?
Yep, I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, I don't know if this New York Jets team is the worst of all time, because the Cleveland Browns 0-16 were pretty bad, and the Detroit Lions 0-16 were pretty bad too. So
that team was really bad.
Yeah.
I think that might be the worst team in NFL history.
Cliff Averill was on that team. Imagine going from the 0-16 Lions to the Super Bowl 48, and you destroy the best offense of all time.
Now, did that Lions team have Calvin Johnson though?
I'd have to look. Was that 2008 Lions?
Yeah, I think they did, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because I remember, didn't they have like Kyle Orton or something? No, is it Kyle Orton at quarterback? Who is it that was at quarterback?
It was a boy from Washington, former Seahawk. Yeah, he was on that Lions team though. He started in 7.
So you can look at the Lions. It's like, well, they at least had like one great.
How bad was the rest of the team? You got Calvin Johnson. You can't win a game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude, that was the same season where the quarterback who was the quarterback?
I don't remember.
Lions.
Yeah. Was it Stafford? No, they got Stafford.
No, it wasn't. It was like Kyle Orton or
Kellen Morris. I don't know.
No, it was.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm looking this up.
I remember that one of the games they had where he like lost the game because they got pushed up against like the 1 yard line or 2 yard line, and he dropped back and he went to roll out and he freaking stepped out of bounds. Dan Orlovsky. That was on the tip of my tongue.
Okay, I'll read you the roster right here. Everybody, get ready. Dante Culpepper. I don't remember that at all. He must have gotten hurt.
I think he hurt his knee early in the season.
Dan Orlovsky and then Drew Stanton. Aren't those like all the same guy?
Yeah, pretty much.
Dan Orlovsky and Drew Stanton. Those also
right?
Yeah.
And if you combine all their powers together,
Madden.
If you combine all their powers together, you get Matt Leinart.
Yeah.
Leinart was really good in college, though. I'll give him that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had Calvin Johnson. They had, like I said, Cliff Averill. Even with Dan Orlovsky at quarterback, like 0-16, man.
Yeah, and I look at the Jets and I'm like,
interesting to go back and watch that full season of Lions, right?
Right.
How bad they really were. Let's do that. Let's just have a watch along of all 3 seasons of the Jets. If the Jets go 0-16, if they don't, it doesn't count.
Right.
The Jets, the Browns, and the Lions all winless seasons, and we'll decide who was the worst.
Right.
And the Jets they just don't have, like, the Lions had Calvin Johnson. The Jets, they don't have. I mean, they have Frank Gore, but it's 47-year-old Frank Gore. It's not prime Frank Gore. Prime Frank Gore was 20 years ago. So
No kidding, man.
Yeah, remember when Frank Gore was playing with the 49ers? I remember watching it, and they used to talk about, like, all the knee surgeries he'd had.
Oh, yeah.
Might not have the longest career, but he's trying. Like,
here 37 years later.
You all think Frank Gore is a Hall of Famer just because he played forever?
Yeah, yeah, he's definitely Hall of Famer. I mean, he's like, I think he's third all time in rushing. So it's like, you got
right. But was there ever a season where Frank Gore was like one of the best running backs in the league, like top three? Can you tell the story of the NFL
he had
Frank Gore?
Well, yeah, you can. But he had, Pro Bowl years. I don't know if he was ever like first team All Pro, but I think, he'll get in. I think, someone with those numbers, it's like, you got to.
I think he will. I just don't know that necessarily. He doesn't seem like he doesn't like pass the vision test for me for Hall of Famer. Right?
I agree with that, but I think at a certain point, like, the consistency and to be able to play the game for that long and have the numbers to back it, then, like, yeah, absolutely, he's a shoe.
Yeah, but the numbers are just, I played forever and I have the third most yards. He never had like a 2,000-yard season, right? He never scored 30 touchdowns in a season. He never led his team to the Super Bowl.
But, dude, he's a running back, and that's like the shortest time span position out of all of them, and look how long he's played. And there was a good stretch of time there. I mean, he was definitely a top 5 running back in the league. The guy he tore the Seahawks up 200-plus yards, you know what I mean?
It doesn't automatically make you top 5 back, Austin.
He consistently was rushing for over 1,000, 1,200 yards a season at one point in his career.
Yeah, he's kind of, to me, like he's like Tim Brown for running backs. Like,
yes,
he was just around for so long, and you put up the numbers, and then you go back and you look at I don't think that Tim Brown was like this explosive, man. Like, Tim Brown was just like such a dynamic memorable player. But then I go back and I look at like Tim Brown's stats, and he's like top 10 in receptions and yards, and he just because he played long enough and he hung around, he was just consistent and productive. And
so starting at his sophomore season in 2006,
we got Pro Football Reference out. Look at everyone.
1,695 yards and 8 touchdowns and averaged 5.4 yards a carry. From there, 1,000-yard seasons in a row, that being the best one, his sophomore season. He had one down year where he played less games, 853 yards, only 3 touchdowns. Keep in mind, he went 8, 5, 6, and 10 for touchdowns. And then for the next, 4 1,000-yard rushing seasons, 2 of them over 1,200, the other 2 over 1,100, and touchdowns as follows: 8, 9, and then 4.
I think he's good.
He was consistent, and man, consistency is key, bro. I mean, that is
the Hall of Consistency.
8 seasons.
You go see the Hall of Consistency in Canton, Ohio.
Okay,
the Hall of Fame, man.
The Hall of Fame is exceptional talent, and if you are that consistent, that's exceptional. Bro, I
believe, yes, it is a skill to stay on the field. Durability, whatever the freaking phrase is, right? Availability is the best stat.
But also
I don't
produce,
think he was ever like the best player.
He did produce.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, he played for that long, and he produced as he played.
Yeah, bro, 1,700 yards his rookie season. 4 1,000-yard rushing seasons, 1 small lull, 4 more 1,000-yard rushing seasons, another 967-yard season, another 1,000-yard rushing season, and then 961, 722, and now he's in the 500s because he's in the very twilights of his career. But, the guy has consistently been a workhorse.
When's the last time he cracked 1,000 yards? How many years ago?
That was in 2016 with the Indianapolis Colts.
That worked. See, we didn't even plan it, in a Sports 101 segment broke out. Austin just had to go and break down Frank Gore's career.
And keep in mind, the second year with the Colts, he was at 961, so barely missed 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll just say, I mean, if it wasn't for boring consistency, there would be no offensive lineman in the Hall of Fame. So I got,
And there'd be no Tim Duncan. Tim Duncan would be an absolute.
Tim Duncan killed it in the finals, man.
Bro, he
wasn't just
boring.
Around.
Tim Duncan is the most boring basketball player of all time.
He killed it in the finals, though. The dude,
in the most boring way that he possibly could do it.
If you think getting shut down by Tim Duncan is boring, then I don't know.
This guy's like, he's blocking shots like this.
I loved watching Tim Duncan.
Well, giving a little shimmy shake and then shooting like this.
I'd want to be Tim Duncan.
Bro, imagine imagine you go up for a layup and then you just see your shot get like slapped off the backboard and you turn around to this.
Who's less enthusiastic, Tim Duncan or Kawhi Leonard?
Oh,
I'd say Kawhi. I've seen Tim because Tim Duncan would get animated with the refs, and then
remember when he got thrown? Remember when he got
sometimes?
Yeah.
Kawhi's just like
Yeah,
Kawhi's just like asleep the whole time.
I don't get him, dude. I think he's a robot, bro. Somebody test him for robotics.
Yeah. Okay, so you know when I'm going to be mad? I'm going to be mad when Frank Gore makes the Hall of Fame before Sean Alexander.
I think Sean Alexander deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
He's like 100 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's still in top 10 all time in touchdowns. He had I think what really like shot Sean Alexander's hopes was he wasn't a 10,000-yard rusher. If he was a 10,000-yard rusher, he'd be a shoo-in.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's one of those players, like, because the O-line was good for that short period of time, everybody assumes that all of his success was because of the O-line.
Right.
No credit. There's certain players like that, like in sports, where like just because like they played with some other people who are good, like Emmitt Smith. A lot of people don't like to give Emmitt Smith credit. Oh, his O-line was so good. But then they sit there and like, oh, Barry Sanders is the greatest of all time. Barry Sanders lost so many yards trying to hit the big play. And don't get me wrong, Barry Sanders is one of the greatest of all time. But like, it doesn't make Barry Sanders better than Emmitt Smith because Emmitt Smith had a good O-line. You know,
right.
Like he still had to find the holes, and he still scored all the touchdowns and ran for the yards. It wasn't like he got a good O-line and they just gave him the Hall of Fame without him actually having to do any of it.
It is kind of weird that Emmitt isn't like more universally considered the best running back of all time, because he's like number one in yards, he's number one in touchdowns, and he's like he's undefeated in the Super Bowl. So for people who use that metric, I hear that's the argument for Joe Montana over Brady all the time. Well, Montana's undefeated in the Super Bowl. Like, well, Emmitt Smith's undefeated in the Super Bowl, so doesn't that make
you know why Emmitt Smith isn't considered the GOAT? The same reason why people like Dillon don't think Frank Gore deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
That's true. Yeah. But you know what? If we keep going, this episode is going to go.
Man? That has nothing to do with Frank Gore.
Consistency is key. Long-time durability, availability, consistency is key.
Won the Super Bowl. Amar just said. He just listed. You can't tell the NFL the story of the NFL without Emmitt Smith. I could tell you the story of the NFL in 5 different languages without Frank Gore, man. He just kind of hanging out in the corner over there at the party. Like, hey, Frank, can you pass me the chips? Yeah, sure, dude. Here you go. Like, he wasn't
he's consistently passing those chips, though. Consistently passing those chips.
Except for a couple of years where he got hurt and he didn't pass as many chips, right?
Well, but barely less chips.
He just came back the next year to keep passing chips. Yeah. And then eventually, like, you're just like, Frank, you've been at this party for 20 years. Why are you still here passing chips? Like, you're not as good as you used to be. I know you're kind of just padding your chip passing stats right now. So maybe hang it up, Frank.
All right. Okay. If we keep going, this episode is going to go as long as Frank Gore's career. So
right.
And then we're all going to the hall.
Yes. Well, I mean,
we're on the air for 14
I'm already first ballot. I don't know what y'all talking about. So
that's how it works, dude. You just hang around. Eventually, you're in the Hall of Fame.
All right. So, Austin, you gonna take us out of here?
Absolutely, guys. Thank y'all so much. Thank you, Dillon, for tuning in. Episode 8 of Bring Your A Game. We had some fun. We had some laughs. It was great. My headphones kept breaking. So, as always, when you come to this show, you better bring your A game. Peace.